Hello, I'm Lisa, and I'm coming to you from Might Could Studiomates, the community manager. So today I would like to tell you more about how to draw manga, the Japanese comic style, how I would do it. And I'm going to review these drawing papers I bought from Daiso, which is a Japanese dollar store or 100 yen store. They are sponsored by a company that's well known among professional mangaka, which are the comic artists in Japan, called Deleter. And Deleter has made a lot of products that are quite popular for traditional manga making. So I thought it'd be interesting for you guys to see how I would use them, and I'd like to give you a little bit of an introduction on it. So let's get started. I brought out this set of paper. We're going to start out with the 4-step manga, Yonkoma, which has a title area up here, and it has 4 blocks. So the idea is that you're supposed to use only the 4 to create the story. These are 2 separate stories. You can see that there's Japanese instructions on how to use it. So as I said, the manga title goes here, and then each part, for example, something starts here and the story is beginning from number 1 and goes down to number 4. And basically it's telling you, use pencil to draw the sketch, then go over it with some sort of pen to basically bring out the inking, right? So I'm going to go ahead and show you some tools that I'm going to try to incorporate here. So for example, I wrote this out in English so you guys can see it. 4-panel comic title here, and then you got your intro, part 1, part 2, and punchline. So I'm going to try to go in this order where I create a story that goes along with this storyline. So let's talk about the tools before we get into that. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over a little bit.
Actually, let's go this way.
Alright, what kind of tools do you need to draw comics in the Japanese style? So for example, you might see ink, this kind of ink in a jar. So this is used for when you're going to use an inking pen, the nib pen, which I had up here and now it's disappeared. Aha, okay. So when you do that, you're going to use this kind of pen there's 3 different nibs in this trial pen set that I bought last year. I originally bought this for use with Inktober last October. So basically you have 3 different tips that you can use. I gotta aim that correctly here. You have the Maru, the G, and the Saji. And you know, it was an interesting thing to try to use these. Of course, it's very messy. So, I mean, it's literally just ink in here. If you're used to using ink with dip pens, maybe it won't be a problem for you. But for me, I'm used to using, more standard pens. So I'd often accidentally dip my hand in it, which you can actually see in some of my Inktober work from last year. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. So this is my Inktober 2019, and here's an example of a manga style artwork I did, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in just a moment. So you can see that I didn't use the dip pen on this one. The dip pen was on this one, and as you can see, as I was lining it, I dipped my hand in it and ended up getting it all messy, so I went full bore on that and just started using all the ink off my fingers in other parts of the image. And I think that these are quite popular among people who like to do traditional comics here in Japan, but
I personally found them to be rather messy. So
today I'm not going to use the dip pen. Sorry about that. I'm going to use a set of Copic multi-liners. So that's what these are here. These are quite useful for getting different weights of lines when you're going to go ahead and ink your comic. So I'm going to go ahead and use those today. The next tool of the trade is these. Or as I should say, are these. Because these are screen tones. And there's lots of different kinds you can buy. So these two I got again at Daiso. And this idea that I could get these for $1 a piece just blew my mind. Because back in the day when I was growing up, in the 2000s, that's when I first started really getting interested in drawing manga. I really wanted to be a comic artist in Japan at that time. So I would beg my mom drive me down to Beaverton, Oregon, to Owajimaya, which is a Japanese supermarket with a Kinokuniya bookstore inside of it. And that was about an hour and a half away from our house. So it was a trek not only to get to this store and buy these things, but also
to buy them. One of these sheets cost $7.
I still remember that. I remember having to pick and choose which one do I want the most. But yeah, it was rather expensive to get a hold of these. So now that I live in Japan, it was just like,
wow, I can buy these for $1. Isn't that handy?
So here's some others. So as you can see, actually, before I put these down, these two are from Daiso, and they're the B and C set. I think the A set was pretty similar to the C. It was just another basic gradation. And this, of course, is the sky, right? Let me go ahead and show you some examples of how I use screen tones in some of the Inktober works I did last year. So here's one, and you can see this one has the lines coming behind it, which kind of mean like a focus point. Each screen tone kind of has a meaning to it. And I used a little bit of this gray here, which I believe was either a Prismacolor or a Copic marker. Probably a Prismacolor marker I had lying around. And I was just mainly focusing on getting those lines out there and creating the atmosphere. So it's a bait and switch, right? So which one has, I don't know what's inside of it, but it looks rather scary, doesn't it? So the one I used for that one is this screen tone right here. Alright, so this one is a pair of pants that I did for overgrown, so basically growing out of your pants so they're too short and they became high waters. So for that one I used this plaid kind of look, and you can see I cut it out and stuck it right on there. So very simple way to fill up some space. I feel like I've seen some really interesting ones in old Japanese manga. For example, I can show you from Maison Ikoku, which is not popular now, but it was back in the 2000s. So this is a manga book that was translated by Viz, and I believe this is one of the originals I bought back in the mid-2000s, or maybe not. I don't know, it says Powell's, so probably not. I'm not sure. Anyways, so it's, this is got a little bit of an older style because originally this was released in the 90s by Rumiko Takahashi. And you can see how she does everything traditionally. So here's some screen tones up here. You can see she added those. And often you'll see it show up on their clothes. Like this guy, I'm pretty sure this is a screen tone. This looks like cross-hatching on his shirt here. But you'll see sometimes also like repeating patterns if they look too perfect.
It was probably a screen tone.
This is probably not a screen tone, but you can buy a screen tone that looks like this as well, that focus lines kind of look. She definitely does a lot of things by hand. So I've read other manga where the characters are more present in the foreground of the page, so they need to fill up a lot of space on their clothes. So they'll use screen tones to speed up that process so they don't have to completely color it themselves. That would take forever, wouldn't it? So anyways, that's a little bit of some examples of where screen tones have been used in older Japanese manga. I'll continue to show you how I use the tools as I use them. So let me go ahead and grab this page here. And I came up with a couple of ideas the other day of some comics that I could make based on some real life experiences I had. And here's one, and this is Potato. So the other day actually I went to the athletic club where I go swimming 3 times a week because I like to get exercise. And the majority of people who go there are over 50, 60, actually quite a few 70 and 80-year-olds as well. Not many people my age, so they're also not used to seeing people who don't look like them. To put it simply, I live in a very remote area of Japan where you don't see a lot of foreign people. It's majority Japanese. I mean, even among Japan, I'm within the 1%. So it shouldn't be shocking to see these kind of, to have these kind of experiences, but sometimes I want to share about them. So anyways, this comic, basically, I was talking with this lady and we weren't looking at each other. We know each other. We've talked many times, and she's in her 70s, and we're talking about something, I don't remember the context of what we were talking about, but it wasn't like real simple. It was something complex, perhaps. And she looks over at me, and then she completely changes what she's talking about to ask me if I know what a potato is.
Do you know what a potato is? Do you know what a cucumber is?
Weren't we just talking about life?
So I thought this would be interesting as a comic. So I'm going to go ahead. So far all I've done is just basically write out what I thought the script should be and give the basic shapes of the people. And since these rectangles are rather small, I don't think I'll be able to really use the screen tones that much. And depending on, what I'm, what the scene is, will depend on which screen tone will work the best. But I'm going to go ahead and try it. So I'm going to put this over the top. Let's see if we can see underneath where my lines are. Kind of. I'm going to go ahead and grab my little light board to put underneath here and see if that helps. So we get it all plugged in. Put that on top for a sec. Alrighties. Yay, light. Light it is. So that I'm seeing already, it's looking a little better. I think actually I'm going to line it up on this side since that's the side I already was working with here. Okay, that looks about right. The next step you're going to want to do is either use a pencil to go ahead and trace. I've got a pencil and eraser here. Of course, I didn't actually do a whole full sketch. So I think I may go ahead and do that where I draw it out with the mechanical pencil a little bit, get a little bit more of a, the hair and the details of the people here. I don't even remember what her hair looks like right now, so I'm just going to guess. But yeah, alright, so let's go ahead and do that. If I'm not running into everything on my setup. So we got potato. Add a little bit of lines because she's not exactly, I mean, she looks pretty young. I was surprised to hear that she was 70.
Give that Obachan look.
What do I normally wear when I go swimming? Maybe like a tank top, but then, I don't know, people don't usually wear tank tops by themselves here because it's kind of Scandalous.
For countryside Japan.
So I was probably wearing a sweater over the top of it. Just a little bit of lines underneath there because, I don't know, the sweater, even, it's like the sweater I'm wearing today that it's kind of, how do you say, crocheted, so you can see where the shirt underneath is coming through, kind of. This is okay, but not like full-on tank top territory.
Oh no, that's not appropriate.
I'm gonna keep those big eyes to kind of signify what's going on here.
Like, what the heck? This lady is speaking Japanese, but she doesn't look like she's Japanese. That can't be possible.
So you got these big round eyes, like, what the heck? I don't know, that looks kind of weird too. Should her eyes be... Nah, I think they should look more like actual eyes. I think the arrow's weird in the eyeballs. Oh, she's looking at me and she's like,
What the heck?
And I'm also like, what the heck?
so I'm kind of like,
Are you okay?
How did this become a question about, whether I know what a cucumber is? I don't know. It's weird.
I mean, let's be honest though, I don't always know, like, 100% what people are saying. No matter how long you learn another language, there's still things you're not going to know sometimes, you know? Because because it's not your native language, but it's kind of weird when, like, out of nowhere, they just look at your face and like...
Do you know the ABCs?
Yeah, studied since I was 12.
I guess it's just strange because people here study since they're little kids and then, you know, they complain they can't speak English, but it's because they didn't need to use it, so they end up losing it, and that's not, you know, how it works for everyone. I really worked hard to study Japanese. I spent a lot of time in, you know, in my teenagers especially, studying so that I could come and study abroad here. And then after I came to, after I came to study abroad in college, I really had a good experience. So I thought maybe it'll be better if I come and look for work here, because I was having a lot better luck. I guess I had a much better experience in Japan than I did with my university in the U.S. So I thought, oh, you know what? I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna try to see if I can find a job. And I came in with a contract for 6 months, and then somehow I stayed here for 8 years. Insane, right? I mean, you just don't know, and it's still going. I mean, I didn't expect to get married to somebody here. I was actually considering to come back to the U.S. to work in Seattle for Amazon, actually, back in 2014. But somehow, I had a connection here, so, you know, I'm trying to make it work. And be kind to people, even though sometimes it can be a little frustrating when you've worked so hard at something and then you keep getting put down to, like, level 1. You know, it's a little bit frustrating at times, but, you know, I'm just doing my best with it. I feel like these eyes say,
Help me.
I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting expression, isn't it? Like, why is this happening? Why did I study? Why did I have to do, like, crazy long dissertations in Japanese in college and then have to go back down to, do you understand what a potato is? You know, just living in a foreign country things. But you know what? At least they're nice. At least this lady was nice. And she always talks to me and she always waves to me when I come to the pool. She remembers who I am. So now I remember who she is too. So it just happened to be this one day where things got weird. And, you know, her nose doesn't look like that. That's my nose. I'm making her nose round. Yep. 日本語が上手ですね。お箸は上手ですね。やだね。Basically, you often get, especially from, you know, people who haven't been outside the area much. Oh, your Japanese is so good if you can say hello. Oh, your Japanese, you can eat so well with chopsticks. Even though you've lived here for a really long time. Sometimes I just want to, like, tell my whole freaking story, but I know it's not helpful. They're just trying to be nice. It's kind of like a cultural thing. Oops, she doesn't have curly hair. Why am I giving her curly hair? I'm just thinking about life. Don't mind me. I don't know. I mean, it's definitely not the worst thing to have to deal with, but it is kind of annoying. Let's be honest. Trying to keep her hair looking the same, but somehow it ends up looking different in every panel. At least she doesn't do the thing.
Well, no, actually that's happened before.
The thing where, that's a different comic actually. I probably shouldn't mention it now. There's a thing that people do here when you come into a room and they don't know you, and you don't look Asian. They will use you as a reason to talk about speed learning. Oh man, did you buy those tapes from the bookstore? You can learn English in a day by listening. It's a thing. It's a real thing. And I always get stuck in the middle of it like, what do you think of speed learning? Do you think it helps? Can I be honest? Probably not. I probably can't be honest, because even if I am honest, it doesn't matter. They're just there to talk about it with each other. Oh yeah, I forgot the little sweat bubble here. You gotta have sweat bubbles. We're doing Japanese comics after all. Of course, the style I'm drawing in is not that Japanese, I feel like. Maybe the first one a little bit, but... Oof, that does not sound good. Hopefully, it doesn't sound that loud in post.
Because, yikes, it's bad. It's bad ASMR. Squeaky, squeaky.
So anyways, alright, we're gonna go on to the next, and that is the multi-liners. Ta-da! Alright, I'm gonna pull them all out of here because I can't. Alright. And we're gonna bring this a little more centered. So again, I followed the general plan, the intro, part 1, part 2, and the punchline, which, if you couldn't read it, you'll be able to read it in post at the end. So we'll just go ahead and remove all the papers we don't need and put this in the center. There we go. So now you can see all my pens. Beautiful. Alrighties. So let me turn them the other way so you can see which weight they are. And since we're not doing very big, we're kind of doing a lot of detail work here, I'm going to go for maybe a 0.3 to start out with, and then I would say my tip, Lisa's pro tip, use a thinner point than you think you'll need at first. Maybe even the 0.1 would be fine for this, because these are so tiny. Like, look at my hand in comparison. I feel like 0.3 would be small enough, but maybe I should go for 0.1. Because at least if you start out with a smaller tip and ink it first with that tip, you can always go in and use a thicker one afterwards to kind of emphasize certain areas. So, alright, we have, let's see, what's the smallest here? Ah, this one. 0.3. Ooh, that is tiny. Look at that. You can hardly even see the thing. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's see, where do I want to start here? I guess I'll start on her hair and the ear here. Very tiny. Ah, yeah, this is good actually. This is good for the size I'm working with. Sometimes I make mistakes when I do the hair. But I could always just turn her whole hair black as well. I don't think she had her hair dyed, so a lot of ladies here in their retirement age, perhaps you could say, like, they tend to have their hair dyed purple or like interesting colors. But I don't know, around here people are pretty like simple with what they do with their fashion and hair. It's quite boring, to be honest. But whatever, it's fine. My hair does kind of look like a poodle in the summer, so it's just, it's life.
It's life in humid climates.
Unless you chemically straighten your hair. Which some people do, but
Ain't nobody got money for that.
her eyes basically falling off her face. They're so huge. But maybe that's kind of the idea I'm going for. And her eyes again are coming off of her face. I'm just gonna go with that aesthetic. It doesn't even like she's looking at me at this point anymore. She's like,
You're not from here. This is strange. Am I in real life? Is this the real life?
Now I just look real confused. I'm just like, what is this life? I think I'm gonna give her some sparklies too, because she's really excited about that I can speak Japanese.
Even though we were just literally speaking Japanese with each other.
So she's got little sparklies, like...
Wow! This white lady can speak Japanese! That's amazing!
Oh, I forgot her arm. Wow, that's random. Let's not forget arms. Arms are important. Unless you don't have arms, and then that's okay. You don't have to have it.
But she did. She had arms, so we need to have arms.
Okay, now we have the basic look with the smallest lines. So now we're gonna, it looks like I have a little bit of eraser dust hanging around. You get one of those little eraser dust vacuums. Let's see, I guess I go up to the next one here, which is the 0.1. Oh yeah, that looks different, doesn't it? It's a lot thicker. Just gonna go around the outline here so you can clearly see where the characters begin and where they end. One thing that would have been nice, I feel like, with this kind of set, perhaps, if it was sold in a set where it came with like some templates for speech bubbles and things to make it easy for people to create basic pages, basic comics. That'd be really fun. But at least I can draw out the basics of what I want my comic to look like. I think I went too detailed on her. With my curly cloud hair, because humidity. Now I just look angry a little bit. I mean...
Maybe, because I'm being asked if I know what a potato is.
Kind of looks like a mustache in this one, but meh. Whatever. A little bit mustachy. Okay, so I have the basic look of my comic. So I don't think I'm going to do much other fill-in work because these boxes are just too small for too many details. I feel like it would just be overwhelming. Plus, it's only a 4-panel comic. I mean, I'm sure you could do more with it, but for the size I'm working with, I think this is decent. I'll go ahead and put these all away. And then once this is dried a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and erase. And for the text, what I'm going to do is, first we're going to add a little bit of screen tones in some of these. Oh, right, I just remembered. I got to go over the boxes themselves with, I'm going to do 1.0 and grab my ruler. Where's my ruler? Psych. I still have things to do. Alright. Yep, use a ruler to make the clean lines. Okay, and then I just need to do my top title area.
Which is potato.
Alright, that looks like a comic. I don't know what you think, but I'm pretty happy with this. And I think also I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half. First let's fold it. Should be dry. Whoo, dry. Okay, should be fine. We'll find out.
If I mess it all up, it's my fault.
Ta-da! it's halved. Okay, and I also noticed that at the bottom here, some of my lines are kind of like falling over the top, which I could also kind of edit when I bring it into the computer, which is my plan. I mean, traditionally, I don't know what they would have done if they, aren't using technology, but I've always used technology, and it's worked out well for me, so we're gonna go with that route where we're gonna use what we got. And then go ahead and erase. Look at that, eyeballs.
Sticking out like crazy.
This is not completely flat because I put a stand on the back. One that didn't work well on my computer because it was too heavy. So, oops, I just turned it off. And I got more eraser junk on. Good job, me. Go away, eraser junk. Okay. Right, there we are. We got our LEDs underneath here so we can see clearly what's going on. Okay.